Chapter 2. Present. Paul Edwards opened his sleepy eyes as the strangely shaped mountain came into view. From its flattened crest rose a crop of tightly packed trees, and his first impression was that it resembled a stumpy loaf of bread. Rubbing at his eyes, he couldn't help wondering whether he was still asleep. "Looks kind of like an old man wearing a bad toupee," Susan observed from behind the wheel of Buck's Hummer. The convoy leaving Atlanta had pulled over somewhere outside of Memphis, and they'd swapped places. During their race south to rescue Susan and Autumn, the two men hadn't slept more than a handful of hours, and before long the exhaustion had started catching up with them. Paul glanced into the back seat to find Buck out cold, a patch of blood staining his bandaged wound. The young soldier who'd talked his commanding officer into allowing them to come along, Paul thought his name was Brett, had said they were heading for a bunker somewhere outside the city, but they'd already driven through 3 states over the course of several hours. As the long column of military and civilian vehicles drew closer to the mountain, Paul could see it stood in the middle of the lake, like a medieval castle, surrounded by a deep moat. A pontoon bridge spanned the waterway, and as the first vehicles began to cross, Paul was suddenly sure they were about to enter the most secure piece of real estate in the country. Autumn leaned forward from the back seat, staring through the windshield, wide-eyed. "Are we there yet?" "Seems that way," Paul replied. "How's your grandpa doing?" She touched the side of his neck with the pads of her fingers and waited. "He's got a pulse." Autumn's eyes rose to a place just over Paul's shoulder. "Holy cow." Metal clanged as the locking bolts on a giant vault door opened slowly before them. The lead Humvees entered, followed by the rest in line. For a moment Susan hesitated. Several of the civilian vehicles behind her beeped. "What is it, honey?" Paul asked his wife. She clutched the wheel. "Nothing important," she replied. If their many years of marriage had taught Paul anything, it was that nothing always meant something. Susan nudged the Hummer's front tires onto the pontoon bridge and drove them across. "Besides," she finally said, "we need to get ourselves out of this radiation as soon as possible." "We do," Paul added, "especially before too many rads mutate Buck into a grouchy old coot." "Dad, I think we're a little late for that," Autumn replied, grinning nervously. Almost on cue, Buck rolled over and began to snore. The 3 burst into fits of laughter which continued until the vault door closed behind them with a thunderous boom.